will work upon this. So I'm just going to share my PPT first, so that I will explain whatever the content I am having. So I'm just going to share my screen. I think it is visible to you, my PPT. Please confirm so that I can continue.
Yes, sir. It is showing that it has started screen sharing.
So
it might be taking
good morning, everyone. Good morning, participants. Myself, Dr. Tirath Prasad Sahu. I'm working here at NIT Raipur as an assistant professor since 2013. So from there, I'm working here. I'm doing my, research work in the area of data mining and analysis. And there are a lot of things in data mining and analysis. A lot of machine learning algorithms are there. Neural networks are there.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you. Yes? Your screen actually is not visible to us.
Oh, okay. Just a second. I'm just checking it. Now it is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is completely visible, and you are audible also.
Okay. Okay.
Continue, sir.
So a lot of things are there in data mining and analysis. Neural network is one of the technique. Which has been devised in order to mimic the human brain, right? And in the brain itself, there are a lot of neurons are there. And I have gone through the, the session of this particular STTP, that overview of neural network has already been covered. So I will not talk much about the neural network. Directly, I will go to the next slide. So see here, you can see here, artificial intelligence is the broad area here. Machine learning is the subset of artificial intelligence. So what is artificial intelligence? Is actually, it enables computer to mimic human behavior, right? So whatever the human behavior, because see, we are the humans, whatever happens in our surrounding, based on that we will take the decision. So as we are the intelligent person in this particular earth, so whatever the intelligence we are having, that type of intelligence we want to model in the computer itself. So that is why, what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence enables computers to mimic human behavior. Inside the artificial intelligence, we are having machine learning technique. So what is machine learning? Actually, it enables computer to learn without being explicitly programmed to do so, right? So what see, whatever we are having in our, first we will give the training to the particular model. Based on that, the machine learns, means how to take the decision. And whenever we will give the unknown data to the machine learning, it will take the decision based on the training data. Then under it, we are having the deep learning techniques, which makes the computation process feasible, because nowadays deep learning is a trending algorithm. Everyone is applying the deep learning algorithm with many areas. So these are the machine learning techniques, the popular machine learning techniques, because there are so many machine learning techniques we are having. So linear regression is there. If you are having the regression problem, you can utilize the linear regression in order to fit the particular problem to the regression. Then we are having the decision tree. This you can use for the classification also. Then we are having support vector machine, which can be used for regression as well as classification. Then we have the popular algorithm. Classification algorithm is nothing but the NAP Bayes, which is based on the Bayes theorem. Then we are having KNN, which can be used for clustering as well as classification. Then we are having k-means clustering, random forest is there. Then after that, we are having many algorithms in the neural network family, like perceptron, which is nothing but the first neural network. Might be you have gone through this particular algorithm. Feed forward network is there, radial basis neural network is there, recurrent neural network is there, gated recurrent unit is there, extreme learning machine is there. So I will talk about this feed forward and extreme learning machine, and how, see, because this is extreme learning machine is also comes under the neural network family. And see, because I'm going to cover the optimization, means how you will use the optimization in neural network, where to use optimization technique. So first I will talk about what is optimization technique, and what is to be optimized. What do you mean by optimization, and how this optimization technique can be applied in neural network so that we can have the better accuracy than the conventional neural network, right? That I am going to talk about. But main thing is that if you don't know the optimization, how it works, how to apply the optimization, it is very difficult to understand, or it is very difficult to apply that particular optimization technique into the neural network or any machine learning techniques. You, as you know, that there are various hyperparameters are there that is need to be tuned before applying that particular machine learning algorithm, right? So how we are going to tune the hyperparameters using the optimization technique into the neural network. So I will talk about that thing. But before that, you should know the the optimization technique. What is optimization actually? So as we here can see that there are more than 27 different neural networks are there. So we will not talk about each and every neural network, but because see, as we are going to talk about the optimization into the neural network, it will implemented in the same fashion. The only thing is that we need to identify what are the hyperparameters are there with the particular neural network that is need to be tuned. So I think this has already been covered, like McCulloch-Pitts MP neuron, which is the first one. Then maybe you have seen the perceptron backward progression network. So this McCulloch-Pitts neuron, that is which has been developed, and the author has wrote a paper describing how this particular might work, and then develop a simple neural network using electrical circuit. So this is the very first neural network which has been researched and developed into the literature. Then in the 1950s, the author Samuel and IBM researcher developed the first computer programmable capable of line checkers. This checker playing program was also the first primitive version of machine learning. And in 1989, Hornig proposed multi-layer feed-forward neural network, which is better than the existing one. Then coming to quickly, I'm going through this particular neural network. Maybe you have already gone through. So what do you mean by artificial neural network? It is a data processing system consisting of a large number of simple, highly interconnected processing elements. That is called new artificial neurons. So there is a difference between biological neurons and artificial neurons. So artificial neurons is to be generated at the different layers of the neural network, which is very similar to the biological neuron. So it has been devised or developed in accordance with the biological neuron. So there are in the artificial neuron, it is a complex system, but this particular neuron is the simple one which is connected to each other. So it is connected, the neuron is connected in such a way so that we can take the input, whatever the input, the problem we are having, we need to give the input to the system, that is ANN model. Then there are different layers. It performs the computation over these input variables, and it gives the output. So you can see here, this is nothing but the left hand side. The figure in the left hand side is nothing but the biological neuron, and here in the right hand side we can see the artificial neural network. You see, it is a biological neural network and it is a artificial neural network. So you can see how you can compare the artificial neuron with the biological neural network. So in this way, here you can see there is the x0 we are having, there is the x1 we are having, there is the x2 we are having. This is nothing but the input variables. So whenever we are having the problem, first we need to find out the input variables, what input we have to give to the system. Then it will go to the cell body of the biological neuron, or you can say in the ANN we are having this type of cell where we are having the activation function where we need to perform the computation. And based on that, see, as you know that in the cell body of the artificial neural network, we should have some computation. For that we are having the activation function. So you can see that the first variable x0, which is multiplied with the weight, it is nothing but the interconnection. This is called the interconnection. Here we are having the input variables, that is x0, x1 and x2. Then we are having the connections which is having some weight. Why we are having some weight? Because as you can see, whatever we are seeing, whatever the variables we are having, we have to make the decision, right? If the particular human is there, whatever whatever happening in the surroundings, so based on that the human takes the decision. But in between the object and making the decision, there are certain things goes in the mind. That is nothing but the weight. That is nothing but the weight. It represents the environment. That is why only based on the input variable it will not make the computation and take the decision. So in environment something is there, based on that the human takes the decision. In the same way in the ANN also we are having the weights. So this input variables is first multiplied with the weights, so that we can have x0 into w0, then it makes the summation of it, that is x0 w0 plus w1 x1 plus w2 x2, which is nothing but, I mean, see, in general if you make it as a function, so it is nothing but the wi xi, where I is equals to 0 to 2 for this case. So here also b is there, which represents the additional factor, which represents the environment also, so which is called nothing but the bias. So these functions we are having in this particular neuron, and in this particular neuron we are having some computation based on the activation function, right? So that is why here we are having the function which is nothing but the activation function. Whenever the activation function is applied over it, it will give some output. So function of this particular thing is nothing but the output. So this is the comparison between the artificial neural net, biological neural network and the artificial neural network. We will not talk about more on biological neural net because we are not the biological people. So now here the simple structure of ANN I have already discussed. This is the input variables. Input variables are represented based on x1, x2, x3, or x0, x1, x2. So this is nothing but the input layer, or you can say the input neurons are there. These are the input neurons here. Okay, in the input neurons always the activation function, maybe in the earlier presentation some of the experts have already told you that at input layer, because at each and every neuron we should have the activation function, we should perform some computation over it, right? But how to perform the computation, what is the purpose to perform the computation, that is the main thing. So here in the input layer, whatever the value we will receive from the inputs, the same we will feed into the next layer, right? That is why we will have the identity function here, identity activation function in the input layer. Then we are having the weights here. Here see the first neuron is connected with all the neurons of the next layer, that is the hidden layer, right? So that is why the first neuron is connected with the first neuron in the next layer, so the weight is w11. Similarly, first neuron is connected with the next neuron, so the weight is w12. In the same way, the jth is the one neuron into the hidden layer, so that is represented by index j, so that is nothing but the w1j, and the last neuron is represented by index n, so that is why we are having w1n. So in this way we can keep the weights of the connections between the input layer and the hidden layer. Similarly, for the second neuron, w21 is there, w22 is there, w2j is there, and w2n is there. Similarly, for the last neuron we are having w31. See, because we are having only 3 neurons at the input layers, that is why the weight is w31, w32, w3j, and w3n. So these are the weights between the input layer and the hidden layer. And at the hidden layer there is the biases. So biases is also fed into the neurons of all the hidden layer. So the first bias is nothing but the B1, for the second neuron of the hidden layer B2, similarly BJ and BN. Then we are having the output layer. So whatever, see, again we are having the interconnection, right? From the neurons of the hidden layer H1, there is the connection to the output layer, and in the output layer we may have one neuron or we may have multiple neurons, but in this case the we have taken only one neuron at the output layer. So the first neuron of the hidden layer is connected to the output layer and the weight is W1, right? Similarly, we are having like this. So whatever the signal that we will get from here, from the hidden neuron, that is H1, that will be multiplied with the W1, and the multiplied signal is received at the output layer. And whatever the signal this output neuron receives, it will first make the summation of all the signals along with the biases, then it will perform the computation over it based on the activation function, then it will give the output. So that is the main logic behind the artificial neural network. See, whatever the things that I have explained, which is written here, that is the Z is the signal which is received at this particular output neuron at output layer. So which is nothing but the G signal. BI, summation of BI means all the biases from 1 to n, because we are having n number of neurons at the hidden layer. Then we are getting the signal xi. Suppose we are getting the signal here x1, here we are getting x2, here we are getting x3, xj, here we are getting xn. So that will be multiplied with this. So this is the main thing. So then how to take the output, because f is the activation function. There are a lot of activation functions. I will talk about different activation function that we can apply over the neural network. So B is the basis of offset value, Wi is the weights of ANN, xi is the input signal, and f that is nothing but the activation function. So now I'm going to cover what are the activation functions that we can apply. So the purpose of an activation function is to add non-linearity to the neural network. Yes, whatever the problems that we are having in the surroundings, most of the problems are non-linear problem, right? And there is the problem. Whenever we are having non-linear problem, then it is very difficult to solve it. In hand. We need to have some machines that will solve this type of problem, because on pen and paper, if we are having number of variables, it is very difficult to solve. If suppose we are having 10 variables and there is a non-linearity characteristics is there between the all the variables, so it is very difficult to solve that particular problem. So that we can solve with the help of this different algorithms. Neural network is one of that particular algorithm. So the purpose of an activation function is to add non-linearity to the neural networks. So there is a sigmoid function we can use. There is the tanh function is there. There is the softmax function. There is the Swiss function. There is the ReLU function. There is the linear functions. So based on these activation functions, we can see you can use any of the activation function. Generally, if you have gone through the book of the neural network, sigmoid function has been used, but you can use any of the activation function that is suitable to the selected problem. Now, learning paradigms, as we know that there are as we are talking about the machine learning algorithm, so what type of learning that we can perform? So there is the supervised learning. Basically, there are two types of learning. One is called supervised learning, another is called unsupervised learning. There we are having reinforcement learning also. If you are having some things that is already has happened, and based on that, if you have to make the decision, then we have reinforcement learning. So what do you mean by supervised learning? Supervised learning is nothing but the classification, right? Already we know the labels of some of the samples, and based on that, we have to give the training to the model, and after taking the training, the model makes the decision for unknown samples, right? So a network is fed with a set of training samples, inputs and corresponding output. So while giving the training to the model, we should have samples along with its class label. Then only the machine can learn. That comes under the supervised learning. Already the labels are known. Maybe it is the binary classification problem or multiple class classification problem. One thing I will tell you here, if many of the participants are doing their PhD, so I will talk about the classification algorithm here, just 1 or 2 minutes. What do you mean by classification? Here I have talked about binary classification, where we are having only two classes. Two classes may be either 0 or 1, or maybe yes or no, or maybe any labels. If you are increasing the number of class into the problem, that is called multi-class classification problem. Okay, that these two type of classification algorithm, that is binary classification and multi-class classification algorithm, comes under single label classification algorithm, right? Single label means at a particular moment, one sample is associated with only one class, right? That is nothing but the single label classification algorithm. If we are having the binary classification, so at a time, one sample is associated with only one class. Even in multi-class classification algorithm, one sample is associated with only one class. So this two classification comes under the single label classification algorithm, because all the samples are associated with only one class. But if at a time one sample is associated with multiple classes, then this is called, can anyone say what is this type of classification algorithm? I will tell you. This is called multi-label classification algorithm, right? If one sample is associated with number of classes at the same time, then the classification algorithm is known as multi-label classification algorithm. Might be if you are working on some problem, you will face this type of phenomena where you need to classify a sample into the number of classes at the same time. Can you tell any example of that particular things? I will tell you the simple example. Nowadays, everyone is using the smartphone, right? So whenever you receive some mail in your smartphone, so it suggests automatic reply. Thanks a lot, kind of things. So one mail is associated with many labels, right? whichever is suitable, always you have to choose that particular one. But see, whenever the mail has been received, by default mail server is suggesting some reply, means it is attaching many options to you for a particular mail. That means one received mail is associated with many labels here. What are those labels? Maybe 4, maybe 5, maybe 3, maybe 1. So that is called, this is the, I mean, problem of multi-level classification algorithm. Means whenever you are receiving, see, suppose there is the disadvantage associated with the email server, it is not suggesting the good reply, so you need to improve it. But what are that particular drawbacks or disadvantage? You need to improve it. So how to improve it? How to make multi-level classification algorithm that will suggest many labels for a particular received mail? So you can work upon it, or you can choose a problem of multi-level classification algorithm and you can work upon it. Remember that multi-level classification algorithm is entirely different from single level classification algorithm. As you know that there is a confusion matrix in single level classification algorithm, and based on the confusion matrix, all the evaluation measures has been devised, and based on that we can compare the different algorithms like accuracy, like precision, recall is there. So all the evaluation measure is based on the confusion matrix. But in case of multi-level classification algorithm, the formula for accuracy is entirely different from the formula of accuracy of single level classification algorithm. So here I am giving the hint, you can work on multi-level classification algorithm also. I will tell you another example. Suppose there is the patient which is coming to a particular hospital, and suppose based on the diagnosis, based on the investigations, the doctor found that the patient is not suffering from only one disease, he or she is suffering from many diseases. Means one patient is associated with many diseases. That is the problem of multi-level classification algorithm. Whatever the test that has been conducted, whatever the investigations has been done, based on those parameters, the particular patient is to be classified into the multiple classes, into the multiple diseases. So those who are working in disease prediction, you can use the concept of multi-level classification algorithm as well. Now this is all about supervised learning. Now we will go to the unsupervised learning. So here no desired output is there, only the samples are there, and based on the similarity between the samples, we need to keep those samples into one group. But here groups are not fixed, labels are not fixed. Okay, you need to decide how many groups do you want, how many clusters do you want. So based on that, unsupervised, the concept of unsupervised learning is there. Then we are having reinforcement learning, like supervised learning, but the error value is used to randomly shuffle n weights. See, this reinforcement learning, we are having some idea about the classes. We are having some idea, some probability we are having, means yes, it can be classified, 50% probability is there, of 0.5 probability is there, the particular sample is to be classified into this particular level, but all the levels are not known. Some idea we are having. So that type of learning is called reinforcement learning. Moving to the next slide, when to stop. I mean, see, while we are using these learning algorithms, when to stop, when to stop. So see, here I'm just relating this particular when to stop with the neural network, the algorithm of neural network. So when, see, as we are having the weights and biases in the neural network, I have already talked about weights and biases that needs to be tuned while taking the output. There should be the optimal values of weight and biases you have to give, right? Initially, you can take any value of weights and biases, but these weights and biases, the value of the weights and biases should be optimal so as to take the maximum accuracy from the neural network model. So, but when, as you know that number of iterations are performed, so when to stop your algorithm. So when weight changes very little from one iteration to the next one, means the difference into the weights, delta W you calculate, delta W into the neural network. When delta W is negligible or it is same as the previous one, you have to stop your algorithm, and whatever the result that you got, you have to rely on that particular result, right? And second is that when the validation performance, like error rate, because you got the error, whatever the output you are having from the output layer, you have to compare it with the actual output, and you will get the error. If you are the error is whatever the error it is giving, if it is satisfactory to some value, always threshold value we should have, because always it will not give the correct result, right? No one is 100% perfect. Similarly here also, see, it depends on the data set. If you are taking the data set, very less data set, maybe it will give the 100% accuracy, there is no error. But in real life, in real problems, always we will get some error. So if error is tolerable, If error is tolerable to some threshold value, we can stop the algorithm, right? The next one is when a limit on runs, that is number of runs or iterations or epochs is reached. We have already performed 100 iterations. We have already run 100 runs, right? Or 100 epochs. So we have to stop the algorithm. See, the overfitting is danger. With sufficient iterations, NN can easily overfit the training data sufficient. So overfitting is danger. That is why to avoid the overfitting, we have to track the validation error. We have to limit the iteration. We have to limit the complexity of the network. One more thing is that I don't know whether it has been discussed or not. How, I mean, we are having many neural networks are there in the literature or in the book itself. Many neural networks are there. Why we are having this many neural networks, and how one neural network is different from other neural network? Only there are 3 parameters based on the neural networks are differentiated. The first one is its topology. What topology you are using? What topology you are using? Topology means the network structure, how many layers you are having, whether it is feed forward or feedback network, right? So this is called topology. That is structure of the network. This is the first criteria. This is the first criteria in order to differentiate the neural networks. First is the topology, that is the network of the the structure of the neural network. Means how many layers we are having, how we have made the connections between the layers, how many layers we are having. That is called nothing but the topology, the structure of the network. That is the one criteria. The second criteria is what activation functions you are using to perform the computation, because we are performing the computations over the input variables, whatever the input variables we are having. Based on that, we are having weights and biases, and we need to perform the computation, and we need to take the output. So what activation functions you are using in the network, that is the second criteria. Third one is what learning algorithm you are using. What learning algorithm, like delta rule. I don't know whether you know the delta rule or not. There are many learning algorithms are there. So what learning algorithm you are using in the neural network? Based on these 3 criteria, all the neural networks can be differentiated. Only these 3 things are there. Based on that, neural network can be modified. If you are changing the learning algorithm for a particular neural network, maybe the backpropagation network, it will, the BPN is whatever the network you will get by changing the learning algorithm, that is not backpropagation network, because there is a fixed learning algorithm in the backpropagation network. If you are changing the learning algorithm, so it is different from backpropagation network. So there are 3 things. One is the structure, second is the activation function, and third one is the learning algorithm. So based on these 3 things, all the neural networks can be differentiated. But here, if you want to avoid the overfitting, so you need to track the validation error. You have to limit the iterations, you have to limit the complexity of the network. Then what are the application areas of the neural network that you can apply? So the function approximations or regression for this type of problem, you may use the neural network, including time series prediction and modeling. So time series, trend forecasting, weather forecasting, and maybe the stock market forecasting. So these things you may do, because this comes under the regression problem. This may comes under regression problem. I will talk about, because right now I am working in the stock market prediction. My research scholar is also working in this type of problem. So we are just using some neural networks in order to model this stock market. Because see, in the stock market, first one is you have to predict the closing price of a particular index, maybe the Sensex, BSE or NSE. Right? Yes, we are having in the world, there are so many indexes are there, but if I'm talking about in the Indian scenarios, so there is the BSE, there is the NSE. So you need to find out the closing price of Sensex, BSE and NSE, right? Nifty or Sensex. So this comes under the regression problem. But suppose if you are selecting whether the market will close negative or positive from the previous day. So that is nothing but the classification problem. Every regression problem can be converted into the classification problem, because see, it is very difficult to find out the continuous value. Regression is nothing but you need to get the continuous values, but in case of classification, that is nothing but the discrete value, right? So the classification means you need to predict whether the market will end on positive note or negative note. Means it will end in the whether it is giving the benefit or we are losing some money, right? Means market is closing negative or positive. So that is nothing but the classification problem. So in the classification, it includes patterns and sequences recognitions, novelty detection, and sequence decision making like radar systems, face identification, handwritten text recognition, like where we are receiving the mail, whether mail is spam or not. So that is also binary classification problem. If there is the patient, whether the patient is suffering from disease or not, that is also classification algorithm. Like, so there are so many areas where we can use this regression and classification algorithm. Now in the next we are having the data processing. Always see what do you mean by data processing. See, whatever the data set you are having, one thing you should know that while giving the data to the machine learning algorithm, first you have to see the data whether there is the unwanted or noises presence or not. Because see, if you don't give the unstructured data, structured data to the machine learning algorithm cannot do anything, because it will understand only the structured data set. Structured data set means the data set that has been structured into the number of columns, number of rows, and number of columns. So generally the rows represent the samples or the instance. Like suppose we are having, suppose if we talk about the email, if you talk about the email, and suppose there is a problem of email spam, we need to whether the email is spam or not. So on what basis you are going to decide whether email is spam or not? So for that you should have different characteristics or attributes or the properties by which you are going to say that the particular mail is spam or not. So all the mails, one mail is kept into one row, the second mail is kept into the second row. That is nothing but the sample or instance, right? And whatever the criteria, based on that you are going to make a decision that will kept into the columns. That is called characteristics. Okay, so this is nothing but the structured data set. All the attributes should be kept in the columns and all the samples should be kept into the rows. Now, if you are having the structured data set, as I have already talked about, for machine learning algorithm, you have to give the training, you have to give the learning to the algorithm. But how to give the learning? That is very important. How to give the learning? For that, again, if you are having only one data set, you need to divide that particular data set into two parts. One is training set, another is called testing set. Always you have to keep more samples into the training set so that it will cover varieties of sample. Why varieties of sample? Because if machine knows there are so many varieties, and if it is covering all the varieties, so always machine will give the correct prediction or correct output, right? So that is why people will keep many of the data set and many of the samples are kept into the training set. But how to divide this data set into two parts? Maybe initially you are having two data set, one is called training and another is called testing. If you don't have such type of split, that is training set and testing set, so you must know how to convert the data set into the training set and testing set. For that you can randomly divide. You can randomly divide the training set and testing set. 70% data you can keep into the training, 30% data in the testing, or 60% in training and 40% in training, whatever it is, maybe the 50-50%. So that is the random division. And second, you may use the k-fold cross validation technique. This is very popular one. Instead of dividing the data set into two parts, you may use the k-fold cross validation technique. Suppose people generally use 10-fold cross validation technique. So what do you mean by this 10-fold cross validation technique? Is that first the data set is divided into the 10 parts implicitly. You don't have to divide it. It divides the data set into 10 parts. If you are using the 10-fold cross validation technique, then what it does is for 9 data set it gives training, and for one data set it makes testing. Then whatever the one data set that is taken for testing, next time it will be encountered in training part, right? Again, it will see, suppose the data set number 1, if it has divided 10 data set and 10-fold cross validation technique you have used, so data set 1 is used for testing and the remaining data set is used for training. Next time data set 2 is used for testing and the rest of the data set is for training. Next time data set 3 is used for testing and the rest of the data set is used for training. In the same way, all the 10 data set is used for testing. So this, and we have to take the average result of this 10-fold cross validation technique, right? In this way, you may give the training to the model, and you can evaluate your model based on the testing data set. So in the data pre-processing part, if we talk about the textual data, so in the textual data, we should have the features. And what are the features? Features is nothing but text, right? If you are having one paragraph, all the one paragraph is not a feature. You need to find out the feature of this one paragraph. In order to, suppose there is the mail, in mail we are having, suppose only one paragraph is there, one mail we are having. So in one mail, whatever the content, we need to find out the most desirable terms or text that is included in the mail, and that is nothing but the feature. But how to find out the most valuable terms or text that is associated with the particular mail? For that, what you have to do, first you have to pre-process this particular email. Like in the text pre-processing, we are having, first we need, what we need to do is first we need to stop the words that is not that is not important. So there is the stop word list, like is, a, am, and this does not represent anything, right? This does not represent. Here I am not talking about natural language processing. Remember that in the natural language processing, you need to see the verb, adjective, helping verb. So I'm not talking about natural language processing. Here I am just talking about the text mining, where we need to first filter the stop words, we need to do the stemming, we need to do the stopping, we need to do the tokenization, we need to do the lemmatization. So these are the pre-processing part, right? So in this way, we have to pre-process the data set, and we will have the structured data set. After applying this pre-processing part, you should have the most valuable terms, most valuable text that will be treated as a feature, and that will be kept in a column. Then if suppose 20 terms are there, 20 texts you have chosen, and you have kept this 20 text into the column. Now you are having one mail, whether this mail is containing all these 20 terms or not. If it contains one term, you will put 1. If it does not contain that particular term, you will put 0. So in this way, we will have the value 0 or 1 in the structured data set, and based on that you can apply any classification algorithm, whether the email is spam or not, any classification algorithm. But what is pre-processing? First you need to do the tokenization. You have to convert the paragraph into the individual term, individual text. Then you have to apply the stemming. Stemming means you have to convert the particular word into their root form, like here forecasting. So forecasting, here ing is included with the forecast. What is the raw form of forecasting? Is nothing but the forecast. So it will be converted into the forecast. Like going, the root form of the going is nothing but go. So you need to convert going into go, right? So in this way we can apply the stemming. And stopping is we need to filter those words that is not valuable, that is not important, like is, a, and the like this. So this is stemming and stopping. And tokenization is nothing but converting the particular paragraph or the documents into the individual. Like here in this particular slide, there are so many terms associated with this particular slide. Here you need to tokenize all the terms. Means here application areas are there. So application is one token, areas are second token, function is third token, approximation is fourth token. So in this way we need to tokenize it, right? So first you need to apply tokenization, then stemming, then stopping. So in this way you can do, and you can even convert this comma, or you can filter this comma and the bullet points and all these things. So this comes under the data pre-processing part. After applying pre-processing part, you should have the structured data set, then only you can apply the machine learning algorithm. Then coming to the next slide, that is advantages and disadvantages. So what is the advantage? Adapt to unknown situation. Like here I'm talking about the advantage of the machine learning algorithm. So here it adapt to unknown situations. Yes, because in the testing data set we will not give its class level. The machine will give you its class level. Then we will check, because in the real scenario, when patient will go to the hospital, nobody knows from which disease the particular patient is suffering. Only thing is that based on the test and investigation, we are having some characteristics, and based on that characteristics or those values or features, we have to tell from which disease the patient is suffering. So it adapt to unknown situations. Here a situation is unknown, disease is unknown. The machine will tell which disease, from which disease the patient is suffering from, right? So second is, it is a powerful, it can model complex functions. Yes, that is why we are devising so many machine learning algorithms that is fit to the complex problems. And all the machine learning algorithm is not applicable for all the problems. The machine learning algorithm is devised in order to cope up with some specific problems, right? That is why we are having so many machine learning algorithms. Ease of use, learns by example. Learns by example means learns by sample, right? Learns by example means learns by sample, because we need to give the training to the model, and very little user domain specific expertise needed. Yes, once there is the machine learning model, we don't have to do anything. We just have that particular machine learning. Once the machine learning algorithm is developed, you can use it. So very less expertise is needed, because suppose there is the people who is not much aware of classification algorithm, but suppose there is a tool where he need to give only the input and he need to take the output. He don't know about how it is performing the calculation into the machine learning algorithm. He don't know, but he is just giving the input and taking the output. So very less domain specific expertise is needed in that sense. That is why in the current scenario, all the branches of the engineering and the science are using this particular machine learning algorithms in order to, solve the problems associated with their field. Disadvantages. Disadvantages is that it may forget. It may forget means whatever the samples that we have given. Whatever the samples that we have given, maybe it is not giving the desired result that we are expecting, or maybe that type of samples are not there in the training data set. That type of samples are not there in the training data set, and it is not able to give the, or it is not able to classify that particular unknown sample into the class that we are expecting, and maybe it will not give the exact value, because it is an approximate algorithm, right? Here we are just doing the approximation. We are not giving the exact value. Like, see, when we are in 6th, 7th or 8th class, the mathematics teacher first explains a particular problem based on some formula. Then he gives one problem, and based on that particular formula we need to solve. So it will give the exact solution, the answer for everybody. Whoever will solve, the correct answer is same. But here, in case of machine learning algorithm, it is not that particular case. So it will not give the exact answer or exact prediction or exact solution, right? Always it gives the approximate solution or approximate answer. So large complexity of the network structure. Yes, we in the neural network we are having complexity of the network structure is very large. It is not understandable, because whatever the hidden layer we are having, if we are having the hidden layer, we don't know how it is performing the calculation, how it is that is why it is very complex. The structure of the network is very complex. Now see, ELM is one of the neural network. ELM is one of the neural network. I'm not talking about those back propagation network. The perceptron is there, and many neural networks are there. I'm not talking about those things. ART1 is there, ART2 is there, because that comes from the very, many neural network algorithms are there. So here, extreme learning machine. So neural network techniques are sluggish and not astute to achieve high accuracy of prediction. So there is the author Hung et al. He has given this particular single layer feed forward network, which is very simple one, because this is only a single layer feed forward network is there, SLFN, that is given by the Hung et al. In 2004, which is called ELM. So what is ELM? ELM is nothing but a single layer feed forward network. Extreme learning machine is nothing but a single layer feed forward network. So in ELM, the input layer and hidden layer are connected by randomly fixed weights, which is called WIJ. It is same as the neural network that we have already discussed, or that you have gone through, and biases you already know what do you mean by this WIJ and biases. So the computational complexity of ELM is very low in comparison with the some other techniques of neural network, because we are just using single layer feed forward network. Because of the simplicity of the ELM, people are using this particular ELM into the number of areas. Even we are using, my research team is using this particular ELM in order to predict the stock market, right? Because the network structure is very simple. So this is the architecture for ELM. Here input is, see, it looks like neural network, because this is a neural network. So here you can see we are having the single layer here, right? Only single layer is there, no multiple layers. We cannot have more than one hidden layer. Only one hidden layer is there, one input layer is there, one output layer is there. It is just same as the neural network that you know. So it is fully connected. So these weights are fixed here. The input layer is connected with the hidden layer. The weights are randomly fixed, okay, and we can give the biases to all the neurons of the hidden layer. It is same as the neural network, right? And this is the mathematical expression in the ELM. The same thing, the beta we are having wixj plus bij. Beta is one of the parameter here that needs to be tuned. Okay, so that is why we can represent this hi wixj plus bi as h, and this beta I by beta, and this is nothing but the t. Okay, so this hwbx, if you see the neural network here, hwbx, this is the function here for this connection. This is the function. We will have w, we will have b, we will have x. X is the input signal, w is the weight, b is the biases. Based on these three parameters, the computation is performed. The computation is performed at the hidden layer. Then we are having the beta in between the hidden layer and the output layer. Okay. So this hwbx is nothing but for this hw1 x1 plus v1 wl x1 plus v1. So we can represent this, and beta is nothing but this this particular h is represent the Murray-Penrose generalized inverse of matrix H. You just go through what do you mean by this inverse of matrix H. This is the inverse, but this is the Murray-Penrose generalized inverse of matrix H. You just find it out what do you mean by this Murray-Penrose generalized inverse matrix. Then you can calculate the function, the value of the beta based on this H, the H inverse and T. This is not very difficult. And what is the role of optimization in ANN and ELM, right? So optimizers are algorithms, that is optimizations algorithms are methods used to change the attributes of the neural network, such as weights and learning rate, to reduce the losses, because we wanted to minimize the error. If we wanted to minimize the error, we need to choose the optimal value of the weights and the learning rate, because these are the parameters that is need to be tuned. We need to give the value of the learning rate. As you know that there is alpha. Alpha is used for the learning rate into the neural network, right? So alpha is equals to 1 means very fast learning. But if you use fast learning, always it will not give the good result. If alpha is equals to 0, that means there is no learning. No learning. Alpha is equals to 0 means no learning. Alpha is equals to 1 means fast learning. We don't keep alpha is equals to 0 and 1. We will keep the alpha is in between 0 and 1. Suppose if you are taking alpha is equals to 0.1, near to 0, near to 0, that is slow learning. If slow learning is there, so always it takes so much time to give the output, but the output is very much desirable, right? So, but we need to pick up the optimal value of the weights and learning rate and biases for a particular neural network that is need to be optimized, and the optimal value is given by the optimization algorithm. Here optimization algorithms came into the picture into the neural network. Okay, I will tell you with the help of the example. So how big the steps are gradient descent takes into the direction of the local minimum are determined by the learning rate, which figures out how fast or slow we will move towards the optimal weights. I want to tell you one thing. Yes, there is the gradient descent method. There is also the some optimization algorithm, but I will tell you what is the difference between this. I think I'm having the slides for that, so I'm not discussing here. But see, I just want to talk about the local optima. Means that is not local optimum value. So what happens is that if you want to find out the optimal value for anything, optimal value. So what you need to do is whatever the value that you are having, you need to calculate your function, whatever the functions you are having. Based on the function value, you can tell that whether it is feasible or not. Suppose you are taking one step forward, and again you are taking, suppose there is fx is equals to x square, right? Fx is equals to x square, and you want to minimize this particular fx. Okay, and suppose the feasible value of x is -5 to 5. You can keep -5 to 5 to x, and you can evaluate f of x. So if you are taking one step forward, whatever the value of x it is coming, if you are putting x into the function of fx, suppose the value you are getting is the minimum than the previous one. So you are feeling that yes, you got the minimum value than the previous one. So that is okay. Again, if you are taking one step forward, again you are putting that particular value of x to fx, that is x square. Again it is giving the minimum value. So again it is the minimum from the previous one. Again you are taking one step forward. Now the fx is giving the maximum value than the previous one, greater value than the previous one. Now you are feeling that no, whatever the value that I got previously, which is the minimum one, you just feel like that. But here you are taking step by step, you are going step by step. If suppose again you are taking one step forward, again the value is greater than the previous one. the previous minimum one. So that means you feel that you got the minimum value. But see, suppose there is the case that after taking 10 steps, there is the value which is the minimum from the previous one, that we got the minimum value. So the whatever the previous value we are having, that is the local minimum, and whatever the value that I'm talking about after 10 steps, that is called the global minimum. So always all the optimization algorithm suffers from local optima problem. And to deal with the local optima problem, like I'm just talking about here genetic algorithm, because genetic algorithm is also my expertise area. Maybe if time permits, then I will talk about the genetic algorithm. So if we want to, I mean, come out from the local optima, always in all the algorithms there are certain things by which you can come out with the local optima problem. So like in the genetic algorithm, we are having the mutation. Maybe some of you have heard about that. Mutation, crossover operator is there, mutation operator is there. So what is the meaning of, what is the purpose of mutation operator there? So the purpose of the mutation operator is to come out from the local optima problem. Because what, see, this is the pandemic situation going on, COVID-19, right? So always you read in the newspaper or any social media that it is mutating very fast, double mutant or triple mutant. What do you mean by that? Meaning is that suppose in the gene or the virus we are having, that is nothing but the sequence of protein, right? Sequence of protein. What, suppose the sequence of protein is represented by 10 bits. Suppose the protein is represented by, and suppose we have used binary representation, right? Only the binary representation, whatever the representation we can use, because representation is one thing in genetic algorithm. And suppose we have used binary representation where we are having only the value of 0 and 1. 0 and 1. So suppose we are having only the 10 bits. Let us say that 5 bit, the simpler one, 5 bit. In the 5 bit, suppose the virus, the representation of the virus is, someone has predicted that the Omicron, I mean, if suppose there is 0,110, that is the 5 bit, this 0,110 is representing the Omicron virus, right? Omicron virus. But now the characteristics of the Omicron virus is 0,110. But later on, after 1 hour, the Omicron virus has been changed. It is not 0,110. It may be 0 tetra 1. But again, after 1 hour, it is not 0 tetra 1. It is all ones in all the 5 bits. But again, after 1 hour, it is not all ones. It is only 1,0,111. So it is changing its behavior. That is why it is very difficult to find out its, the vaccination and all, because based on the expression, based on the behavior, based on the structure of the virus, the vaccine is designed. But here the virus is changing very fast. It is mutating, because see, mutating means in any bits the change can happen. 0 becomes 1, 1 becomes 0. So it is very difficult to track it. If it is very difficult to track it, it is very difficult to design the vaccine, because it is mutating by the time. So that is why always see if it is mutating, that is not feasible. But if you are optimizing something, because we have stuck in the local optima, we are taking 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, but solution is not improving. We are not getting the minimum value. So what you can do is you can directly use the mutation operator that will change some bit. That will in 1 step only, it takes 10 steps, because after 10 steps we are having the global minima. So that is why mutation is very important. Mutation is very important in order to find out the optimal value into the optimization. But in real life, like here I have taken the example of gene expression. So if the gene is mutating very fast, so it is very difficult to track, or it is very difficult to understand the expression of that particular gene or the protein sequence. Okay. So optimization techniques with capability to solve complex problems can be better tool to decide an appropriate structure of neural network among infinite possible structures. See here, earlier I have talked about the structure of ELM. that is one neural network, where we will have the input layers, we will have the weights. This particular connection is nothing but the function of h of w b x. So w is the weight, b is the basis, x is the input variables. Here we are having the hidden layer, then we are having the beta, we are having the output layer. So it will give the predicted data. After the output layer, we will get the output. The output is nothing but the predicted data, and based on the predicted data and the actual data, you can see here from the input we can compare the actual data with the predicted data, so that we can measure the error. That is the error measurement. And based on the error measurement, we can see that how much it is tolerable. If it is not tolerable, we need to choose the optimal value of the hyperparameter. So here the optimization technique comes into the picture. After the calculation of error, if it is not feasible, we need to optimize, because so many iteration is performed in the neural network now in order to get the accurate result. So here optimization technique comes in based on the error. Then this optimization techniques decides the optimal value of the weights and biases. Again, it is fed into this particular connections, because here with the help of the optimization techniques, we will choose the optimal value of the weight and biases. Then again the computation is performed. Again it will give the output. Again if the error is not feasible or it is not acceptable, again we will optimize based on the previous results. So here optimization techniques comes into the picture in order to tune the hyperparameter. Here the hyperparameters are the weights and biases. This optimization technique, in the similar fashion, we will apply this optimization technique for all the neural networks, because in all the neural networks we are having weights and biases that is need to be tuned. Okay. Here in the optimization technique, you may use genetic algorithm here, you may use cross-search algorithm here, you may use artificial decolony algorithm here. Any optimization algorithm you can use here. This is the simple structure of the optimized neural network. Okay, here I have taken ELM as a neural network, and here I have taken just the general optimization technique. So what optimization, what is the purpose of the optimization techniques here? Based on the predicted data, you have to calculate the error. If error is not feasible, not acceptable, again you have to optimize, you have to take the optimal value of the weights and biases, and number of iteration is performed so that it reaches the maximum iteration, or there is no change, or the change in the weights are negligible, or the error is acceptable. Whatever the error we are getting, it is acceptable. So this is nothing but the simple structure or simple architecture of the optimized neural network. Here ELM is taken as a one neural network. Objective functions. How objective functions can be defined? Like, see, because I have talked about, I will tell you optimization function, because might be you are very interested to know how to apply optimization technique, but always the optimization techniques optimizes some function, means finds the value of particular function. Function may be the problem of the function, whatever the problem we are having, maybe it is the minimization problem, or maybe it is the maximization problem. Because see, in the real life, what we wanted to do, we wanted to maximize our money, we wanted to make minimum effort. Everything is optimization in the real life, everything is optimization, right? Always all the problems of minimization can be converted into the maximization, and vice versa. How see, suppose there is the fx is equals to, suppose the maximum value is 100, maximum value is 100. If you take 1 by 100 or minus 100, it will become the minimization problem. Suppose fx is equals to x is to be maximized, that means fx is equals to minus x is the minimization problem. Fx is equals to x is the maximization problem, that means fx is equals to minus s is the minimization problem. Okay, so if you are taking the inverse of the function or negation of the function, that is nothing but the opposite in nature. So every minimization problem can be converted into the maximization and vice versa. So see, what I am talking here is like here we have taken the error measurement. Based on the error measurement, we are applying the optimization technique. And optimization techniques optimize some functions, right? The role of the optimization technique is to maximize or minimize some function, but that function should you should frame or you should formulate that particular function based on the problem that you have chosen. Wherever you are having, if you are doing the research in any field, maybe the problems of mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, civil engineering, computer science, anything. So what you have to do is you have to formulate the objective function that is to be optimized. So here in case of neural network, see, suppose there is the, I'm just working on the classification problem, right? Suppose here it has been taken that in forecasting problem, just I'm having important call, so just wait for a while. Okay, sorry for the interruption. So here in a forecasting problem, error measurements such as MSE, MAP, RMSE, and etc. are considered as objective functions to be minimized. I will just talk about, suppose there is a classification algorithm, right? Suppose there is a classification algorithm. So in the classification algorithm, always we wanted to get maximum accuracy. Okay, means error should be minimum. Because these are the evaluation parameter. Now we will get the accuracy, we will get the error. So error is categorized, many errors you can find out. MSE, mean square error, MAP, average, RMSE. So many error formula is there, right? Many error formula is there. Either you can use the accuracy or you can use the error. So here error has been taken. Suppose there is the MSE. I'm just wanted to minimize mean squared error. That is MSE. I'm minimizing MSE, that means I am maximizing the accuracy. So this can be the objective functions. I want to get minimum value of MSE. I want to minimize as minimum as possible. In the error, as minimum as possible. So this can be the objective function. This can be the objective functions for optimization, right? So what is n here? N is nothing but the number of observations in the data set. Si is the actual data and si cap is the predicted data. Based on this, we will get the error, and that is squared one. That is the squared one. That is why we wanted to minimize this squared error. This is nothing but the squared error. Na? Si minus si cap is nothing but the error. If you are squaring it, so it will give the positive values. So whatever the squared error we are getting, we wanted to minimize it. That is, it is called minimum mean squared error, right? This is called mean squared error. That is why here we have taken 1 by n, because n observations are there. So this is mean squared error. We wanted to minimize it. If we are minimizing it, that means we are getting maximum accuracy. So this can be the objective functions that is to be minimized, right? That is to be minimized. Now, yes. So any doubt till now? Because see, I have talked about some concept of neural network, machine learning, then in the neural network weights and biases, then the error, then the optimization. So if you are having any doubt till now, so you may ask it, because after that I am going to just talk about only the optimization technique, means the cross search algorithm and the artificial bee colony algorithm. Because see, if you don't understand how to devise the objective functions where we need to apply the optimization function, because see, in your cases, maybe some of the participants are different engineering branches, you may just devise your objective functions based on your problem that needs to be optimized, right? So if you are having any question, you may ask. From now onwards, I'm just going to talk about the optimization technique. If you don't have any questions, then I will move on to the next slide. Okay. So now the optimization technique. So in the optimization technique, I'm just going to talk about the meta heuristic algorithm. Before that meta heuristic algorithm, we can have the the gradient descent search algorithm, heuristic algorithm is there, then the meta heuristic algorithm is there. So nowadays meta heuristic algorithms are very popular because it has been proved that meta heuristic algorithm gives the better result than the stochastic algorithm and the heuristic algorithm. So in the meta heuristic algorithm itself, it has been classified into the 4 categories: evolutionary algorithm, physics based algorithm, swarm based algorithm, nature inspired algorithm. Although all these algorithms are evolutionary algorithms, although all these 4 algorithms are evolutionary algorithms, like see, genetic algorithm we are having. So based on the evolution, it will give the better result, right? So in the evolutionary algorithm, we are having differential evolution, genetic algorithm, evolutionary algorithm. Similarly, in the physics based algorithm, we are having simulated annealing, gravitational search algorithm is there, harmony search is there. In the swarm based algorithm, means swarm particle can be there in the particle swarm optimization, ant colony optimization, artificial bee colony algorithm. Then in the nature inspired algorithm, we are having bat algorithm, cuckoo search algorithm, crow search algorithm is there. Okay, so these are the some meta heuristic algorithms. Now I'm just going to talk about first the crow search algorithm. Okay, maybe you may ask the question why you are going to explain crow search algorithm, because currently we are working in this particular field like crow search algorithm and artificial bee colony algorithm. If you go to the Google Scholar of my profile, so you will find the research paper based on the crow search algorithm and artificial bee colony algorithm, right? So that is why, because I am in touch, currently I am in touch with these algorithms. Yeah, although I know PSO, ACO and other algorithm, genetic algorithm is there, but we are working on these algorithms. That is why I am explaining it. Okay. Because there is the similar concept in all the meta heuristic algorithm. We need to update the population, but that is why see, if you know 1 or 2 meta heuristic algorithm, you can easily understand the other algorithm. So what do you mean by crow search algorithm is that crow search algorithm is a nature inspired population based meta heuristic algorithm, right? And this algorithm is proposed by Askarja in 2016. As you know that 2016, just 5 years ago, this particular algorithm has been devised, and people are using this CSA algorithm because this CSA algorithm works in many fields and it gives the better result than the other algorithms. I'm not saying that always it gives the better result. It depends on the problem. Because why we are having so many meta heuristic algorithms? Because not a single specific meta heuristic algorithm is giving the better result for all the problems. That is why you need to choose the suitable meta heuristic algorithm which gives the better result, right? Which gives the better result. Because as per no free lunch theorem, no specific meta heuristic algorithm is best for all the problems in the real world, right? So the mathematical expression of CSA is derived. See, although see, what do you mean by crow search algorithm? So as you know that crow is one bird, right? Crow is one bird. Based on the behavior of crow, the algorithm has been devised. What is the behavior? I will tell you how crow birds steal the food from other crows, and based on this particular phenomena, the algorithm has been devised. So the mathematical expression of CSA is derived from the behavior of crow birds and their social interaction to survive or to get food. Always everyone wants to maximize their food. As I wanted to maximize their food, I wanted to make the money, right? Similarly, crow also, all the crows are wanted to maximize their food so that they can survive in the environment. So what they does is that, in the crows, what is the behavior of the crow is that always one crow wants to steal their food from other crows. That is main behavior. क्या करते हैं वो, जो क्रो होता है, क्रो वांट्स टू स्टील और हाइड देयर फूड, और छिपा देता है दूसरे क्रो से, ताकि दूसरा क्रो उसको ले ना पाए, राइट। बेस्ड ऑन दिस पर्टिकुलर बिहेवियर, they maximize their food. So here optimization comes into the picture, no? They want to maximize their food in order to survive in the environment. So that particular behavior has been formulated into the optimization algorithm, right? Because they want to maximize their food by stealing it. So what is the steps of CSA? You got it, what they want. I mean, what is the behavior of the crow? Crow wants to steal their food or hide their food from other crows, right? Because दूसरे crows हैं, वो उनका food ले लेंगे. So they just wanted to maximize their food by hiding it in some places, and this behavior has been formulated into the mathematical expression of optimization problem, and that is used in a optimization problem. So always, because it is a population based search algorithm, so always first you have to initialize the population. Means you should have, because see, we are having number of crows, no, number of crows are there, there is no populations are there, many crows are there, and all the crows wanted to maximize their food by stealing their food to some places. So this is the population based algorithm, right? So the crows in the group represent the search agent. The crows in the group represent the search agent. Search agent means they wanted to get the solution, the food, which is better one in the population. So the search space represents the environment. What is the meaning is that in the optimization problem, suppose we are having fx is equals to x square, there is the constant associated with fx is equals to x square. That constant need to be satisfied, means always the x ranges from minus 5 to 5. Suppose this is, I'm just taking the example. So you have to search the value of x from minus 5 to 5 only. That is the search space. But there are so many values in between minus 5 to 5. Which value we need to put into fx, function of fx, so that we can minimize the fx, or maximize the fx. Okay, so that is the search space. So not all, there are infinite number of values now in between minus 5 to 5, minus 5.001, minus 5.00012, many things, many infinite numbers are there in between minus 5 to 5. We cannot try all the infinite values to function x. That is why we are developing some algorithm that will give the optimal value. Although we know the minimum value of fx of x square. तो तुम लोग बोल सकते हो क्या बोल रहे हैं, एक्स स्क्वायर है तो नेगेटिव तो कभी हो नहीं सकता, ओनली जीरो इज, x is equals to 0 is the minimum value which gives the minimum value of fx. But if I will tell you fx is equals to x to the power 7 plus 5x to the power 6 plus x to the power 5 plus 3x to the power 3, means if suppose the complex function is there, how to find out the value? It cannot be solved in the paper, right? So that is why here I have taken just simple example so that you can understand. But for complex problem, you cannot solve it in a pen and paper. You have to utilize some algorithm, some machines that will give the minimum value or the maximum value, right? So what we do is, as we are having the number of solutions that we can try in between minus 5 and 5. So what we do is, first some solutions are taken as an initial population, means only the 10 solutions, minus 5 to 5. Suppose I have taken minus 4, minus 4.5, 0.1, 3, 4. Suppose 5 solutions has been taken in the initial population. Then we need to find out the value of fx based on these 5 values. So here the population size is 5. Here the population 5 is size. First we have taken 5 solution only, then we are just updating these solutions so as to maximize or minimize the functions. So here the population size is nothing but np, which is nothing but the 5. So here what we do is, this represents the search space here. Here we have taken the initial population. In the initial population we are having only the 5 solutions, and based on these 5 solutions we are updating this solution, that is the populations, that will fit to the function, that will give the optimized value to the function, because we cannot try all the values of x into fx, right? Practically it is not possible. That is why we are using the meta heuristic algorithm or population based algorithm. In the population, first we have the fixed number of solutions, and that population is to be updated over the iterations so as to get the optimal value of the function. Okay. So here the crows in the group represent the search agent, that is the solution. In the population, that is NP. The search space represents the environment. Yes, it is representing the search space is representing the environment, because in the environment only we are searching the optimal value, right? So the adjustable parameters of CSA are flock size. Flock size is nothing but the group size, or how many crows you are having in the population, because one crow is utilized to get one solution. So how many crows we are having, that is finding out how many solutions. If you are taking NP 5 crows, so it will give 5 solutions to the function, and whichever the solution is feasible, most feasible, that we will keep, right? So that is the flock size, or you can say the population size, that is NP. Maximum number of iteration, how many times we have to perform this particular algorithms, maybe 50, maybe 100 times, right? And one thing you should know, that after completing one iteration, we will go to the next iteration based on assuming that this is the reference one. Whatever the solutions we are getting after the iteration one, we wanted to again improve it. We will not go to the lesser value than the iteration one. So based on the assuming that this is the reference solution, because see, the solution is updated now. We have taken first the initial population, and the initial population is updated in iteration one. And the updated solution is always better than the initial population. Then we will go to the next iteration. Again, we will update the same population. So whatever the solutions we are having at the iteration one, and whatever the population we will get, updated population, we will get in iteration two. So always the population of the iteration two is better than the iteration one, always. Because the function that we have devised in such a way that we need to update the population, and always it will give the better accuracy or feasible solution. That is why if there is a negligible improvements in the iteration, suppose we are having at iteration number 99 and we are having the iteration number 100, and iteration number 100 is fixed, that is the limit, so we have to stop. Or suppose at iteration number 64 we are having, and at iteration number 65, suppose the result of iteration number 64 and 65 is same, we can stop it, because there is no meaning of again updating the solution, because solutions are not improving, or whatever the result it is giving, that is feasible one. It is feasible one. Okay, that is known as convergence. If at iteration number 64, iteration number 65, iteration number 66, 67, 68, solution is not improving, and it has already given the feasible solution, that is called convergence. The problem has converged. Okay, so these are the parameters, that is the flock size, that is the number of crows, maximum number of iteration, flight length. Yes, crows flies in order to search the food and in order to hide their food, right? Because it flies, na? So to which location, up to which location it can fly, that is the flight length. Flight length decides to up to which location it can fly, or it can search the food, or it can hide the food. Okay, so always if you take the maximum value of greater value of FL, that is flight length, that is meaning is that the crow is exploring so much area, means exploration is very high. See, always two concepts are associated with each and every meta heuristic algorithm. One is called exploitation, another is called exploration. This is very important. You just keep in mind that these two keywords are very important. One is exploitation, another is exploration. What do you mean by exploration and exploitation in case of meta heuristic algorithm? Although you know what do you mean by exploitation and exploration. See, if you are exploiting, suppose in the department many faculties are there, but one faculty is having many works. Always all the work is given to that particular faculty, means that particular faculty is overloaded, and the administrators are exploiting that particular faculty by giving so many works. So see, in the same case, if you are searching the solution in only one area, that means you are exploiting that particular area. But too much exploitation is not feasible. Why it is not feasible? Because you may not find the optimal solution in that particular area. You need to search the feasible solution into other areas as well, because maybe the optimal solution may be located in other areas. So that is why exploitation of one faculty is not feasible in the department as well. So too much exploitation is not feasible. Similarly, too much exploration is also not feasible. One time you are searching in that location 1, second time you are searching in location 2, third time you are searching in location 3, but you are not searching a particular location many times. Maybe you are misleading. That is too much exploration. You are exploring so much area. That means at one time you are doing the research in machine learning. In second time you are doing the research in IoT. Third time you are doing the research in bioinformatics. Fourth time, so you may not understand that particular field. So you will not, perform the optimal performance is not there. Maximum performance you cannot perform in the maximum extent. So you have to stick in 1 or 2 areas, okay, so that you can do the good research work. So too much exploration is also not feasible. So here the flight length is, if flight length is less, that means exploitation is more, and if flight length is greater, that is exploration is more. So you need to keep the value of FL in such a way that there is the trade-off between exploration and exploitation. Okay. Then we are having the awareness probability, AP, awareness probability. What do you mean by awareness probability? This probability, awareness probability, is associated with all the crews. Flight length is also associated with all the crew. Okay, what do you mean by awareness probability? If the particular crew is aware of other crews, if we are talking about, so just take the simple example, 2 crew. Okay, 2 crew, whether the one crew is aware of second crew or not. If one crew is aware of second crew, that means that particular crew knows where that particular crew is hiding their food. If they knows, based on that, they will that particular crew act, right? Maybe that particular crow, if knows the second crow has hidden that their food into that particular place, so one crow will easily get it. And here what we are modeling it, stealing behavior of crows. Stealing behavior of crow is modeled here, right? So if awareness probability is high for a particular crow, that means that particular crow knows where the food has been hidden by other crows. If awareness probability is low, that means that particular crow don't know. Okay, so based on this we will update the search space or the population. Okay, so the whole population of size NP, suppose here the NP is the population size, that is the crows, with dimension D can be represented as follows. What do you mean by dimension D here? Dimension, feature, attribute, column, or same. Right, suppose if you take D is equals to 3, means crow can search into 3 areas, okay, 3-dimensional, right? But in the data set we may have many columns, so columns represent the dimension, dimension, okay. Although this is one crow, na, the first row represents the one crow, and this is the dimension, 1 to D is the dimension. Similarly, the second crow, third crow, and fourth crow, like this we will have, right? This is the second crow, this is the NP crow, last crow. So here we are having NP crows are there into the population. This is the initial population, this is crows. How many crows we are having? NP crows we are having in the population. We are having NP crows. Okay, next slide. So in the first iteration, what we will do is, in the first iteration, assume that they have concealed their foods in the initial position, because crows have less experience in the beginning. In the beginning, they will have less experience. By watching the behavior of other crows or seeing the behavior of other crows, they will be intelligent. But at the beginning, when we have initialized this, they are just conceal their foods in the initial positions. Okay, and these are the position. The memory of each crow is initialized as described as follows. This is the memory of each crow. This is in accordance with the crows. This is the crow, and this is the memory. This is the memory of each crow. And based on this, they have memorized where the food has been kept. Now, the solution evaluation. How to evaluate the solution? Each solution in the population is evaluated by calculating its fitness by using the fitness function, that is the objective function. Here I am just have taken the example of fx is equals to x square. Fx is equals to x square, that we wanted to minimize. So whatever the solution it is having, Like here we are having x square, so it is one dimensional. If suppose I am taking f x y is equals to x1 square plus x2 square. So here this is two dimension, x1 and x2. Suppose we are having x1 square plus x2 square plus x3 square, that is three dimension, right? So here we can take d is equals to 3, x1, x2 and x3. In place of d we can take 3. Okay, so we need to find out the value of x1, value of x2, value of x3. Then we can keep this value of x1, x2, x3 into x, and we can evaluate the function. We can evaluate the function, that is the fitness. That is the fitness. Okay, that is the objective function. Based on the function only we can know that whether it is giving the minimum value or higher value. We can compare the values. So we need to calculate its fitness based on all the solution, based on this solution, right? This is the solution. This is the solution. This is the first solution. This is the second solution. This is the third solution. This is the nth solution. Based on all the crows, for all the crows, we need to evaluate our objective function. That is its fitness. Okay. Now, as we know that we have taken, suppose we have taken only the 5 crows in the initial population, and for all 5 crows we have evaluated the function. That means we know the value of fitness, which is the most suitable. If it is the minimization function, now we are going to update the position. Now we are going to update the position of all the crows. Okay, means we need to update the solution of all the 5 crows. We are having 5 solutions initially in the initial population. In the first iteration, we need to update the population. But how to update the population? Based on the behavior of crows. Based on the behavior of crows, it will be updated. Okay. So see, suppose the crow I, the solution I, okay, the first solution, I is equals to 1 you can take, that means the crow 1. Okay, the crow I, that is the first solution, or solution ith solution, can update its position. The crow I can update its position based on the position of crow j. How the particular crow updates its position? Based on the behavior of crow j, other crow j. The crow I can update its position based on the position of crow j, and crow j is a randomly selected crow from the population. First we will take the first crow from the initial population. Just take the first crow, then you can randomly choose any crow other than first crow, and based on that the solution, the position of first crow is updated based on the food hiding place. So the crow I can update its position based on the position of crow j, which is randomly selected from the population in order to discover its food hiding place. In order to discover its food hiding place, because the food has been kept in a particular place, and that food will be hidden by the crow, and always the crow wanted to steal the food of other crows. Okay, so this behavior has been modeled. So the solution of any crow or the position of any crow is updated based on the position of other crow, which is randomly selected from the population in order to discover its food hiding place. So during the movement of crow I toward crow j, 2 phases can happen. Here we have taken only the cases of 2 crow. Okay, because every crow, the solution or the position of a particular crow is updated based on the behavior of other crow, which is randomly selected from the population. So what happens? Suppose we are talking about crow I and crow j. So during the movement of crow I toward crow j, 2 phases can happen. What are the 2 phases? Just see here, what are the 2 phases? If crow j, that is, if we are talking about the solution, that is xj. If crow j is unaware that crow I is following, here you can see in the diagram we are having the 2 crows. Okay, this is the jth crow and this is the ith crow. This is the jth crow and this is the ith crow. Okay, if crow j, this particular crow j, is unaware that crow I is following it, crow I क्या कर रहा है, इसको फॉलो कर रहा है crow j को. Okay, if this crow is unaware that, इसको नहीं पता है कि crow I फॉलो कर रहा है इसको, so if crow j is unaware that crow I is following, that is how we can say that crow j is unaware that crow I is following based on the awareness probability, AP. Now the role of AP came into the picture. So there is the R1 is the randomly generated number. between 0 and 1. Always, I mean, in each meta heuristic algorithm, many things are there which is randomly generated based on the random function. So here R1 is a random number which is generated between 0 and 1. Okay. R1 is the random number which is generated between 0 and 1. If R1 is greater than or equal to AP, means the unaware that awareness probability is low. That means CRO J is unaware that CRO I. If awareness probability of CRO J is low, then the random number means certain number between 0 and 1. That means MJ unaware of CRO I. CRO J is unaware of CRO I. That means R1 is greater than or equal to AP, means awareness probability is low for CRO J. Then the CRO I is supposed to follow the food hiding place of CRO J. अगर इसको नहीं पता है CRO J को तो क्या करेगा? CRO I इसका फूड हाइडिंग प्लेस को CRO J के फूड हाइडिंग प्लेस को फॉलो करेगा इन ऑर्डर टू गेट द फूड, क्योंकि ये स्टिल करेगा, इसके खाने को चुराएगा CRO J के खाने को, right? So then the CRO I is supposed to follow the food hiding place of CRO J as characterized by below equation. This equation will be executed. And what is this equation? Now the position of xi will be updated. Earlier the position of xi is this one. This is the position, right? This is in the initial population, this is the position. Now this position is to be, or the solution you can say. So based on the solution we have evaluated the function, right? Now what it does is, over the evolution, we need to update its the population in the next iteration. So we are talking about the iteration 1 here, right? Iteration 1 here. So in the iteration 1, solution is to be updated. So how the solution is to be updated? How the xi, the first solution is to be updated? So here we have taken the case that if CRO J is unaware that CRO I is following it, that is the awareness probability of CRO J is less, then the CRO I is supposed to follow the food hiding place of CRO J as characterized by below equation. So the position of the ith CRO is to be updated based on this equation, and this equation is xi new, the new position. Okay, new position is equals to the old position of I, the old position, whatever the position we are having in the population, in the previous population. That means this particular position, this position is the old position. Okay, the old position plus there is the random number which is generated between 0 and 1, then the flight length of 1. So here you can see from the diagram, this is the origin, okay, this is the origin, and this is the flight length. Flight length 1 is less than 1. If flight length is less than 1, means you can say that it is the exploitation, and if flight length is greater than 1, that is means the exploration. It is searching into other areas. Flight length is less than 1 means it is searching that particular area. Okay, so flight length, this is the flight length into multiplied by the memory of J, because in the memory there is the position na, so jth memory minus old solution of I, if R1 is greater than or equal to AP, that means CRO J is unaware of CRO I. If this case is happened, that is R1 is greater than or equal to AP, means CRO J is unaware of. Meaning is that if R1 is greater than or equal to AP, that means CRO J is unaware of CRO I, because CRO I is following the CRO J and it wants to steal the food of CRO J. So this equation will be executed and the position of the CRO I is to be updated based on this particular equation. Okay. Now the phase 2. In the phase 2, what it does is, if xj is aware that, now this is the one case where xj is unaware of xi. Okay, means CRO J is unaware of CRO I. But here, if CRO J is aware that CRO I is following it, if it is aware, that means awareness probability of CRO J is greater. That means AP is greater than R1, whatever the random number is generated. Here R1 is greater than or equal to AP, here R1 is less than AP, just the reverse case. Okay, that means here CRO J is aware that CRO I is following it. Then the CRO IXI is replaced by a random position as characterized below. Random position. See, position is updated. How position is updated? First, in the phase 1, position is updated according to the position of CRO J. The position of CRO I is updated according to the position of CRO J. Here, randomly the position of the crow I is updated because crow J is aware ना. So if crow J is aware, वो अपना food नहीं देगा crow I को. ओके इसलिए नहीं देगा तो ये क्या करेगा, क्रो आई अपना रैंडम पोजीशन अपडेट कर लेगा, किसी भी रैंडम पोजीशन पे चला जाएगा. ओके so if xj is aware that xi is following it, that is the awareness probability of crow j is greater then the crow I is replaced by a random position as characterized below. And always in every meta heuristic algorithm there is the lower bound and the upper bound. Here I have said that na fx is equals to x square, x is less than -5 and 5, so here lower bound is -5 and upper bound is 5. So that is why xi new is equals to lower bound plus upper bound minus lower bound into random number. Again the random number is generated between 0 and 1, right, if r1 is less than 80. Okay, where r and r1 are two random numbers which is generated between 0 and 1. ap is the awareness probability of crow. A small value of ap enhances the exploitation. I have already said that if awareness probability is low, so it enhances the exploitation, and high value of ap enhances the diversification, that is exploration. And the memory of crow is updated with fitter proposition as depicted below. Mi new is equals to xi new. When we will update its memory, when fitness of xi new is less than or equal to fitness of mi old. If xi new का fitness कम होगा old fitness से, mi old fitness से, because this is the minimization problem में fitness value lesser feasible है, right? इसीलिए यहाँ पर अगर new fitness is less than the old fitness, that means less value is feasible na for minimization problem. So what we can do is we can update its memory. इसलिए mi new में क्या चला जाएगा, xi new. अगर ये condition follow नहीं होता है, if the fitness value of the new position is greater, then we can keep the old fitness, we can keep the old memory, not new memory. Okay, not new memory. See, that particular population is the position and this is the fitness. Now this is the pseudo code of CSA. While see, initialize crows, you have to initialize the memory of crows, the flight length, and the awareness probability. Now evaluate the function values of crows. While end criteria may be anything like number of iteration you can take. Number of iteration is equals to 100. The iteration is reached 100, then you have to stop it. So for I is equals to 1 to np means for each and every crow. If random number is greater than awareness probability, that means crow j is unaware of crow I, so you need to update its position like xi new is equals to xi old plus r into flight length into the memory xlk minus old position, so position of updated crows. Otherwise randomly the position of crow I is randomly updated in between the lower and upper bound, and it will in between the lower and upper bound how to update it. So we need to execute this particular equation, that is xi new is equals to lb plus ub minus lb into random number, then it will stop. Then we have to evaluate the functional values of each crow. So if the fitness of a new position is greater than the old position, no, it is written wrongly here. If this is for maximization problem, actually if fitness of xi new is greater than the mi old, then we have to update it for minimization problem, and for the maximization problem it is right. Else mi new is equals to mi old, then this process will end. Now this is maybe the mechanical people who in the participants, if they are having, so they know very well what do you mean by this pressure vessel design problem. So there are various engineering design problems are there. Here the function has been given for this pressure vessel design problem. This is the pressure vessel design problem. Even I don't know very much about pressure vessel design problem, but yes, I know pressure vessel design problem is formulated in the form of this equation: fx is equals to 0.6224 x1 x3 x4 whatever it is. So this is the objective function, and this criteria should be satisfied. Remember that always the value of minus x1 plus 0.0193x3 should be less than or equal to 0. This is the one criteria. This is the second criteria, g2. This is the third criteria. This is the fourth criteria. Yes, we want to minimize the function fx. We wanted to minimize the function fx subject to these four conditions. Always these four conditions should be satisfied. Then only in between this we need to minimize this particular function. We want to get the function value of fx to this condition. You can solve this particular function. Yes, you cannot solve this particular function by pen and paper, right? It is very difficult. Maybe some of you are aware about the integer programming and all, linear integer programming, right? So this is very difficult to solve in pen and paper. So you need to follow some algorithms in order to minimize this particular function subject to the given condition. So this is called constraint optimization problem. Okay. So this type of engineering design problem, the optimization design problem, you can solve it by using the optimization techniques. Okay. So see, this is the I'm having this particular for this particular problem. For this particular, how to solve it, how to minimize, how to optimize this particular function. You can code it. You can write the code in the Python, because I have whatever the code snippets I have quoted here is the Python code. This is the Python code. You may write this Python code into the Python. So I'm not going to discuss this Python code right now. In the next lecture, I am having the lecture from I think 12:30 to 2:30, and there only I will discuss this type, this implementation part. What do you mean by this? Till that now, I'm just requesting the coordinator of this workshop that you may just install, I mean all the participants can install the Python tool in their system, so that they can work upon it. So if you can install, you can directly write or this particular code into their tool, and they will get the optimized value of the effects, right? So what I wanted is that you just install the Python tool. You may install Spider, right? You may install Spider. Spider is one the explorer of the Jupyter, right? The Python tool. After installing it, you can copy this particular code snippets and you will get the result. I will explain this code, how it works, how it has been coded. So I'm not going to discuss it right now. I will take it into the next lecture. Now coming to the next optimization technique, right? This is the one optimization technique, that is CSA, crow search algorithm, and based on the crow search algorithm, we have coded that particular problem, right? And one more thing is, in the next hands-on session, we will see the neural network as well. Means the ELM. And hopefully we will take the stock market data and we will optimize it with the help of the crow search algorithm to ELM, and in order to get the better prediction accuracy, right? If time permits. Remember that, if time permits. So next algorithm that I wanted to discuss is artificial bee colony algorithm. So this is another meta-heuristic technique that comes under swarm-based meta-heuristic technique. So artificial bee colony algorithm is one of the most frequently used algorithm. In many papers, if meta-heuristic algorithm has been applied, so always either ABC has been taken as a main meta-heuristic algorithm, or in the paper itself, it has been taken for the comparison purpose. So ABC is very popular one. Okay, and this particular algorithm has been devised by Dervish Karaboga in 2005, motivated by the intelligent behavior of honeybees. Honeybees means there is a bee, शहद हम लोग खाते हैं ना, how to get the शहद, और शहद कैसे इकट्ठा होता है hive में. Based on this behavior, based on the behavior of honeybees, the algorithm has been devised. Okay, so it is proposed by Dervish Karaboga. Karaboga is the famous author, and he is very active person, right? He is very active person. And he is working in meta-heuristic technique, and always whatever the problems are there in the meta-heuristic techniques, always they tries to solve it, and they are continuously publishing the research paper on meta-heuristic technique. Okay, so since 2005, Dervish Karaboga and his research group have studied on ABC, and still they are studying it. Remember that, still they are studying it, how we can get the better accuracy. So since 2005, D. Karaboga and his research group have studied on ABC algorithm and its application to real world problems. The ABC algorithm is a swarm based meta-heuristic algorithm, and it is based on the foraging behavior of honeybee colonies. Now, three essential components of forage selection, right? So what are the three components of forage selection? First, the food source. Again, because this is swarm based intelligence technique, right? So here what behavior has been modeled? The behavior of honey bee, मधुमक्खियों का जो बिहेवियर होता है खाना इकट्ठा करने का हाइव में, उसको हम इम्प्लीमेंट किए हैं ऑप्टिमाइजेशन बनाने के लिए, राइट? सो व्हाट एवर द बिहेवियर ऑफ हनी बीज आर देयर, दैट हैज बीन modeled as an artificial bee colony algorithm and used as a meta-heuristic technique for optimizing the objective function. So what is the important thing is, what is the important thing? The important thing, nothing is important here. Only thing is that whatever the problem that you are having, you should frame the proper objective function. Proper objective function means this function I am talking about. Yes, this function. If you have framed this function, fx is equal to like this, whatever the problem you are having in any engineering application, any data set, you need to devise, you need to formulate proper objective function. Then the problem is over. Only thing is that in each and every domain, you need to frame the proper objective function. Then everything is same. No need to do anything. You can easily use the available code. Only thing is that you need to change the objective function. Okay. So what I'm talking about is there are three essential components of forage selection. First, the food sources. The food sources, because always honeybee wants to maximize the food into the hive. उसको नेक्टर बोलते हैं ना. In the hive, छाते में वो लोग अपना खाना ज्यादा से ज्यादा रखना चाहते हैं, बट कैसे खाना से ज्यादा, कहां से मिलेगा वो खाना? दैट इज कॉल्ड फूड सोर्सेज. So the value of a food source depends on many factors such as its proximity to the nest. Nest मतलब hive here. Okay, here I have to write hive, but it is written nest. Okay, so the value of a food source depends on many factors such as its proximity to the nest, its richness, that is the quality, you can say, its richness or concentration of its energy, and the ease of extracting this energy. भाई है भी तो उसको इजीली तरीके से लिया जाए तब ना उसको एक्सट्रैक्ट करके हाइव पे लाया जाए. है तो पास में, लेकिन हम उसको ला ही नहीं पा रहे हैं ड्यू टू सर्टेन कंस्ट्रेंट. सो दैट thing we should keep in mind that food source we have to select, or the bee has to select the food, that particular food source which is close to the hive, and the quality of the food is good, and we can the bee can easily extract this particular food from the food sources. Okay. Then we are having the second component is that employed foragers. So what do you mean by employed foragers? Is they are associated with a particular food source. They are associated with a particular, because there are many food sources, right? There are many food sources. So they are associated with a particular food source which they are currently exploiting. Exploiting means they are taking the food from that particular food source, and that particular food is deposited into the hive. Who will do this particular things, this process? The employed foragers, the employed bees. I will tell you what do you mean by employed. Okay, because they have been employed to collect the food from the food sources, and they are responsible to deposit that particular food to the hive. Okay, so they carry with them that particular information about this particular food sources, its distance from hive to the food source, and direction from the nest. Distance and direction, because it is very important. If they don't know where the food is located, where the food source is located, which direction, how much food is there, what is the quality, it is very difficult to get maximize the food into the hive. So they carry all this information about the food source. Okay, so they carry with them information about this particular food source, its distance and direction from the hive. The profitability of the source and share this information with a certain probability. What the employed bee does is they just collect that particular food from the food source, and they just deposit that food into the hive, and while depositing it, they share all this information. Which information? Where the food source is located, the quality, the direction, how much effort is required to collect the food. All this information the bees shared to other bees which are stayed at hive. So I will tell you, bees are divided into three categories, because many bees we will have into one hive, na? In one hive, many bees are there. So there are 3 types of bees actually. So I'm going to just tell you. So here what is written in the last line, the probability of the source and share this information with a certain probability. Whatever the information the employed foragers are having, employed bees are having, they just share this information to other bees who are looking or who are watching other employed bees, right? How? We will see in the next slide. Third, unemployed foragers. So there are 2 types of unemployed foragers. Foragers means bees. Okay. Foragers means bees. So there are 2 types of bees. One is employed bees. Another is unemployed bees. Again, unemployed bees. There are 2 types of unemployed bees. One is called onlooker bees. Another is called scout bees. I will tell you. So unemployed bees, what is the job of unemployed foragers or unemployed bees? They are continually watching or they are continually at lookout for a food source to exploit or explore, also explore, not exploit, also explore, exploit as well as explore. So they are continually looking out for a food source. The food source which is extracting right now, they are not much concentration about that particular food source, because that food source is exploited by employed foragers. So what they are doing is actually they are in search of new food source. Unemployed foragers, they are just watching the employed foragers and they are in search of new food source based on the information the employed bee gives to the unemployed foragers. So they are continually at lookout for a food source to exploit. There are 2 types of unemployed foragers. I have already told you. Scouts searching the environment surrounding the hive for a new food source, and onlookers waiting in the hive and establishing a food source through the information shared by employed foragers. So whatever the information the employed bee will give to the unemployed foragers who are at hive, based on that they take the decision which food source is to be chosen for collecting the food, right? And there is the job of scout bees also. Scout bees always in search of new food sources, always in search of new food sources. When they search the new food sources, when the solution is not improving, yes, I'm just connecting with the previous algorithm as well, because this is also the population based algorithm, right? ABC is also a population based algorithm. We will have the initial population where we will have the solution. That solution is evaluated, and if the solution is not improving, we need to select another solution. How we need to select other solution? Based on the scout bees. Okay, based on the scout bees here. So the model defines the 2 leading modes of the behavior. The ABC model defines 2 leading modes of the behavior for the recruitment to a nectar source. Recruitment to a nectar source means which food source is to be recruited for extracting the extracting the nectar, right? So the selection of food sources, you can say selection of food sources. Second, the abandonment of sources. When we abandon that particular food source because solution is not improving. If the solution is not improving, if we don't have so much food in that particular food sources, if we are having that is not a much quality, so we need to abandon that particular food source. So here is the role of scout bee came into the picture: the selection of food source and the abandonment of a food source. So these are the model defines these 2 leading modes based on the behavior of the bees. So this is the pictorial representation where we are having the dancing area. But yes, one thing is that how employed bees share the information about food source to the onlooker bee by doing the dance, and that dance is known as waggle dance. And there is a dancing area in the hive itself. Based on the dance, employed bee does the dance, and based on the waggle dance, the other onlooker bees who are watching at the hive, they got the information from the employed bees, and based on that, they make the decision which food source is to be selected for collecting the nectar from food sources to the hive. So I think Pankaj sir, I think the time is over and I am having so much content for ABC. So can I complete this concept, because it takes time. So can I complete these contents or the concepts into the next lecture? Pankaj sir, are you there?
I am there. I am here, sir.
Because see, it takes some time to complete it, so it cannot be completed in 5 to 10 minutes. So what I am planning is that first I will cover the concept of ABC, then I will go for hands-on session.
Sir, you will complete in next session, definitely.
Okay, because see, in this 30 minutes, I am having some other assignments as well in my institute, right?
Sir, we can take a break from 12 to 12:30.
Yes,
Yesterday
yes,
also
sure.
we had
For
taken
30 minutes, there is the break, and at 12:30 again I will join the session. I think the link is same.
Same, sir. Link is same.
Yes. Sure. So till that, you just have your lunch and all, and if you are having any queries, you may ask, right?
Yes.
Okay. So right now I'm just stopping it
yes,
from
sir.
my side, and again I will join at sharp at 12:30. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, sir, for your knowledgeable session.
Thank you.
Participants are requested that we are going to take a 30 minutes break, and we will be meeting again at 12:30 p.m. For the next
Thank you.
session.
I'm just leaving this particular session so that I can complete my other works in the institute, and again I will join at 12:30. Okay. Thank you,
Yes, sir.
everyone.
Okay. Thank you, sir.